You're listening to 1001 Album Club, where each episode we discuss a different album from Robert Dimery's book, 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die.
One, two, three, four, five, six. Run, runner, run, runner. Going faster miles an hour. Gonna drive fast and stop and shop. With the radio on. I'm in love with Massachusetts. And the neon when it's cold outside. And the highway when it's late at night. Got the radio on. I'm like a road runner.
All right, for this episode, we'll be talking about the Modern Lovers self-titled album. On the line, I have Rob.
I'm in love with rock and roll.
Ben.
Radio on!
And John.
Oh, bye-bye.
The Modern Lovers is the debut studio album by the American rock band of the same name. It was released on Berserkly Records in 1976, although the original 9 tracks had been recorded in 1972. The producer was Robert Appier, John Cale, and Alan Mason, and the genre is protopunk, garage rock, and art rock. And I'm going to read from All Music Review, Stephen Thomas Erlewine. Compiled of demos the band recorded with John Cale in 1973, The Modern Lovers is one of the great proto-punk albums of all time, capturing an angst-ridden adolescent geekiness which is married to a stripped-down minimalistic rock and roll derived from the art punk of the Velvet Underground. While the sound is in debt to the primal 3-chord pounding of early Velvet Underground, the attitude of Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers is a million miles away from Lou Reed's jagged urban nightmares. As he says in the classic 2-chord anthem Roadrunner, Richman is in love with the modern world and rock and roll. He's still a teenager at heart, which means he's not only in love with girls he can't have, but also radio's suburbs and fast food. And it also means he'll crack jokes like, quote, Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole, not like you, on Pablo Picasso. But She Cracked and I'm Straight are just as nasty, made all the more edgy by the Modern Lovers' amateurish minimalist drive. But beneath this adolescent posturing, Richman is also nakedly emotional, pleading for a lover on Someone I Care About and Girlfriend, or romanticizing the future on Dignified and Old. The combination of musical simplicity, driven rock and roll, and gawky emotional confession makes the Modern Lovers one of the most startling proto-punk records of all time. All right, what do we think of the Modern Lovers? Self-titled.
This is a desert island record for me. This is one of my favorite records of all time.
That's
Really?
amazing.
Yeah. Also, it sounds like from your write-up, the write-up was on the reissue because it included Dignified and Old and I'm Straight.
Yeah.
Both great songs.
Yeah, they're good songs. I just wanted to read that write-up. It just had a nice sentiment to it for sure. And it captures, I think, what I really identify with is that sort of adolescent geekiness, the sort of lo-fi, just playing in a rock and roll band or a punk band and just having fun.
So pure. It's like it's like as pure as spring water.
The song in our ears right now, Astral Plane, like the concept that I can't connect with a girl physically, but I think maybe if I connect with her in like a disembodied spiritual entity form, then we'll connect for sure. Like that concept, like that feeling, like as a kid growing up playing D&D and shit when I was like 10 and 11, I'm like, oh yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. I'm on it.
I love the intro to that song too. Just tonight I'm all alone in my room. I love how geeky and gawky Jonathan Richman is. I love how earnest and sincere he is in all of his lyrics. Like you listen to this record and you feel like you really get an impression for who this dude is. And then all that's on top of, just melodic, simplistic, driving rock and roll, which is what I want anyway. Like I think Jonathan Richman with his like naivety and his gawkiness is, punk rock is a state of mind. And I think Jonathan Richman is more punk being an admitted nerd than someone strutting around with a mohawk, He's putting it out there.
I don't think I'm not quite as enthusiastic as you've been on this album. It's just that I have there's just some drawbacks for me in terms of just the presentation of how it is. It's real loose. It's super charming. And I think that's really what it has going for it, is that sort of, a lot of people like to say indie darlings or something like that, where it's like you can't not smile when you're listening to the album because you get it. I mean, everyone was a teenager, but at the same time, I do have there are a couple songs I was like hesitating, just kind of being like, it's not quite. It sounds a bit like they're relying on things like the Velvet Underground here and there. But I still like it. I mean, it's still cool. It's fun to listen to. I was actually very surprised about She Cracked, which might be my favorite song that they actually do. I hadn't really thought about that song before, but after listening to this album a couple times, I think that might be my favorite song.
It's got one of my favorite line couplets in it. It's like, you eat garbage, eat shit, get stoned. I sit alone. I eat health food at home.
But I mean, those lines are apparently kind of how Jonathan Richman was, right? Like he's kind of a nerdy straight edge dude, but not in like a tough way, right? Like he's just like, oh, I don't think we should eat bad shit and smoke cigarettes.
No, he likes to take care of him. He likes to take care of himself, and he thinks there's enough beauty in the world that you don't need to alter your perspective of it. And he's such a pure dude. I love this guy. One thing that I think is interesting, right now we're listening to Old World, and just on the Tom Petty one, we were talking about how many fade outs were on the album. So this song, Old World, has a fade out, but as it's fading out, they are ending the song in the studio. The song actually has a real ending, and it's fading out over it, which I guess just like the looseness of it, maybe, but like I don't know why they would make a decision to fade it out if the song ends.
I thought that this that particular track aged like milk. The calling back to the 1950s, being white in Boston, and thinking that I want to live back there again. It's pretty shitty. Also weird that there's a song called "The Old World" when the write-up is talking about Jonathan Richman living in that new world,
the modern world,
a modern world, if you will.
Yeah.
Being a modern lover, a lover of things modern, and being a modern lover.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, Birch. I think that She Cracked is my favorite song on the record.
Oh, okay.
That and I'm Straight. I'm between those two.
Yeah, I'm Straight's not on the original.
Yeah. But it's good.
Yeah, it's really good though.
Yeah.
Body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, like the I get it, but if I given my druthers, I'd be listening to the Replacements or Murder City Devils over Modern Lovers. I know that like there's a lot that comes from this record that is in those things. It's just this one doesn't hit me the way that those bands influenced by this do.
I first discovered this record as a nerdy, lonely teenager that loved rock and roll and didn't know how to talk to girls, and Weezer hadn't put out a good record in like 5 years. And then I found this, and like, I was like, oh, this is it for me. This is my salvation. He was singing from a perspective that I could relate to, and it still rocked, and it didn't apologize that it was. It didn't apologize that it was like nice or naive. It's just like that's me. This is my perspective. This is where I'm coming from. This is what's important to me. And this still rocks. And as a young guy, it really resonated with me. And I think it just stuck with me. I've loved this album for years, but I only researched it this past week. I did not know that it was recorded mostly in 1972, but Hospital was recorded in 1971. and we're talking about how this is like a proto-punk album, and then considering the fact that it was written and recorded 4 years before it even came out, this is fucking proto.
Yeah. I think that's the most impressive aspect about this album is how early it truly was for a song like Roadrunner or She Cracked, and some of those more up tempo sort of like power poppy proto punk stuff. That's cool.
So are we in 76 now, or are we still in 75?
We're now in 76.
76.
Okay, so this was 72 when they recorded this?
Yeah, 71,
Yep.
72. Like, Jonathan Richman was friends with Graham Parsons.
Dude, they were playing mini golf the day before Graham Parsons died.
So
And
crazy.
that,
Like,
and that was what derailed the original, not the original recording sessions, but recording sessions. Like he was playing mini golf with Graham. They were talking about collaborating, and then Graham died, and then the recording sessions for this album kind of fizzled out.
it's so weird to try to like rectify that in my brain temporally, Like,
Graham's a Harvard guy.
no. Then, I mean, I get the Harvard guy part. Like, yeah, Jonathan Richman, Massachusetts dude, guys in his band, Harvard guys, right? Like the keyboardist and the drummer, right?
Keyboardist Jerry Harrison, later to join the Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And then the drummer was David Robinson, later to join the Cars. These are the dudes in this band have good careers ahead of them.
Except for Jonathan Richman.
He was in Something About Mary.
He sure was. Man, I can't remember the exact story, but Max, Ladybird's hanging out with Jonathan Richman after a show they opened for him, like at Z Bar, where Jonathan Richman was just like, "So, what are you guys doing next? I would like to go get some food." And they go out and get like food with him, and he's asking what everybody does, and Max is like, I'm a pizza chef. And he's like, "Oh, that's cool. It's nice to know that people do jobs like that." And I like whatever job he had is like is installing windows. Like
He makes concrete pizza ovens.
yeah, oh yeah, that's it. Oh shit, I'm so
He's like,
sorry.
"Oh, I make
God,
pizza ovens."
I wish one of them was here to tell this story.
Jonathan
but I just
Richman
did.
makes concrete pizza ovens.
According to what he told the Ladybirds, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, he's a weirdo, but he makes good music, and he still has to supplement it with being a guy who makes concrete pizza ovens.
Central Park. Well, don't you want to see me ever again? If not, I'll meet you on the astral plane. Astral plane for late at night. The astral plane. Alright, go insane.
So Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers was recorded in 1976 and came out in July of 76. And it was in August of 76 that Berserkly put together the old Modern Lovers demos, which was, other than Jonathan Richman, an entirely different band, and released that as an album. So July, Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers self-titled album. August, the Modern Lovers self-titled album. Only one member the same in both bands. Jonathan Richman does not consider the album that we're listening to right now his debut because he never released it. He considers Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers his debut album, and it's just weird. For the record, I prefer this one that we're listening to right now to, as the further away he moves from this original Modern Lovers lineup, the further away he moves from like the Velvet Underground sound and kind of like the punk rock tendencies. He gets a lot more folky, a lot more kind of a childish sing-songy. He still has all of that charm, and that his charm is why I keep on coming back to Jonathan Richman. But it's this first one that he doesn't even really consider a Jonathan Richman album is the one that I like best. It best blends his charisma with just melodic punk rock simple music. And I think that's what I like most.
Yeah.
That was his big beef, right? He wanted to play his song softer, right? Or like play more like adolescent kind of like, let's make a song about insects where we all say buzz buzz.
That song's great, by the way.
Yeah. But like his band members are like, we're too cool to do that.
Well, what from what I read, what happened was so that they were playing the punk clubs on the East Coast, in New England and New York City, and they get a following. They get labels are interested in them, and so they've already booked. It wasn't Berserkly that initially signed them. I forget who it was, but they booked the studio time, and in between them signing for the studio time and actually going to the recording, they had a residency in Bermuda. And Jonathan was very, very inspired by these like Bermudan folk musicians that he would see that had this whole like soft guitar, like fingerpick guitar style. And he kind of decided that like, oh, well, that's what I want to do. That's the direction I want to go. And the rest of the band was like, "Oh, that's all well and good. We can move in that direction, but we should at least record these songs the way that they are right now, document them, and then talk about like changing the sound." And that was just kind of the beginning of a difference in direction between him and the other Modern Lovers. I'm just glad that they got this recorded and that someone released it.
Yeah.
Seems like neither of those things almost happened.
Yeah, it sounds like this was almost shelved for years and years.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't going to come out at all.
I'm glad I'm hearing it.
I am too. I don't know. It's interesting. It has a lot going for it. I'm curious what would happen if Jonathan Richman was not lead singer though. We would never hear this album, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can't take the like Stooges sentiment and replace it with like, oh, I'm going to take all the sex and menace of the Stooges and replace it with hugs and like
Vegetarianism.
Exactly, yeah, hugs and straight edge. Like if you didn't have a frontman like Jonathan Richman, like you couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's just strange when I hear things like She Cracked. I mean, I hear Velvet Underground, just so much. It's just such a big influence that I think that might be it's skewing my perspective on this band.
I could be wrong. Didn't Jonathan Richman like as a teenager stay on the Reed couch for a while?
Absolutely, and he loved the Velvet Underground. I mean, I think that's part. I didn't even know that before. Kind of listening to this album, but that makes complete sense. I mean,
yeah,
it's literally a going in that direction, except the edge of it being that everything is upbeat, up tempo, sort of that punk rock attitude, and then also having the childlike wonder of being a teenager, not being the jagged. Jaded junkie in New York.
I thought that the following song, Hospital, sounded a whole lot more like Velvet Underground than She Cracked. But I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Hospital was the one that one was actually recorded in 1971, and Jerry Harrison had the tapes, and I guess he donated them to Berserkly when Berserkly was putting this out. It's like everything was 72 except for Hospital, which was 71.
So I don't know what the hell is supposed to be on the actual album order here. Then
So the songs are Roadrunner, Astral Plane, Old World, Pablo Picasso, side 1. Side 2 starts with She Cracked, then Hospital, Someone I Care About, and Girlfriend and Modern World.
Mm-hmm. We're currently listening to a different order than the album order.
Yeah, my apologies.
Yeah.
I mean, we basically get it. Like right now, I think it comes straight. Like we go Hospital, Someone I Care About, Girlfriend, and Modern World. And then we have extra on the end.
We had Dignified and Old, and I'm Straight in there somewhere.
Yeah, those came before She Cracked.
Right. So that probably was what threw us off.
Yeah. And then Government Center, the last track that
is not on the original release.
Yeah.
Is also I don't like that song.
I don't like that song, but I find myself thinking about that song. Like, what was the circumstances that led him to write, "We've got to rock and roll tonight at the government center. The secretaries are putting the stamps on the ledgers.
Yeah.
We've got to make them feel better." Like, did you think that the Modern Lovers
I bet they just wrote it on the spot.
at the government center, and John's like, "I'm gonna write these people their own song."
Yep.
Well, yeah, but it almost feels like a jingle for like an office supply store. It's like, we got desks, we got chairs.
I will say, government center sounds a lot like later, like Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers iteration, like as opposed to just the Modern Lovers. Just that kind of like, it's almost like a children's song, and that's he has a tendency to go that way after this initial band separates.
Well, and I've heard that like that's kind of one of the things they did even early on was like, oh, we're gonna play Fraternity Mixer. Let's write a song called Fraternity Mixer about being at the Fraternity Mixer and talk about the people that are at this mixer.
You ever heard Jonathan's solo song "Dancing at the Lesbian Bar"?
No.
Fantastic.
Right from your life, right what you know.
Yeah.
Also, he's got a song. I don't know what it's called. It's probably called something like "I Don't Have a Cell Phone," but it's about not having a cell phone. He's like, "And if I'm on a walk, well, then I'm on a walk, and you can't call me there. And if I'm at the beach, oh, well, then I'm at the beach."
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're listening to Hospital, and I don't know. It's charming, but I imagined like a high school band playing this song. You know?
Of the dating bar, I'll be here to get back into your life. I can't stand what you do. I'm in love with your eyes. Oh, I can't stand what you do. Sometimes I can't stand you, and it makes me think about me, that I'm involved with you. But I'm in love with this power that shows through in your eyes.
Do you think that the girl referenced in the song of this album, do you think it's the same girl that he's kind of infatuated with at this point?
How old was he at this point?
Probably like 20. I don't know.
Do you
Yeah.
think there was an actual girl?
It seems like it. Like he's got it's. If I'm like reading through the lyrics in here, it seems like he is in a bit of a relationship with. It seems like a girl that's like a member of the scene, is experimenting with drugs, and he's just trying to convince her that she doesn't need that side of it. It's going to be fine. So many of maybe not so many of the songs, but at least like, She Cracked and I'm Straight and
Someone I Care About, Girlfriend.
Yeah.
Astral Plane.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to me like the kind of guy like Paul Simon who's like, oh yeah, I read a headline in a newspaper and I wrote a song about these characters. Like these songs feel to me like they're about him and life experiences he's going through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, is like, is this one person kind of that's inspired this like creative movement from him?
Or multiple that he falls into the same sort of repetition with. Like, I guess, if you've got a guy who has a hard time really connecting with, his romantic interests, like it's understandable that he would have these kind of feelings. Like I read an article, I think it was maybe like a Vice author who said something like, oh, Jonathan Richman's kind of like Scott Pilgrim, like he's nerdy and he's not afraid to like put his feelings out there, but he's creating this idea of himself, where he's like, and there's that line, I think it's in She Cracked, where it's like, or no, it's in Someone I Care About, where it's like, oh, you can do whatever you want to me, but don't touch her, like he's a defender of this concept of like,
yeah,
pure womanhood.
Ew.
Yeah, right? Like that's the part that makes it real weird.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. It all falls in the same tempo category. The delivery is monotonous. Ernest in the like the approach, because he's a teenager singing about teenage bullshit. But I mean, like I said earlier, ultimately, I wish this was the Replacements or Murder City Devils. And I only throw Murder City Devils in there because like it's confessional with a fucking Farfisa. And
Yeah.
but I prefer the confessional of a grown human poet than what baby Jonathan Richman's throwing forward here. So I don't know. If you're I'll never listen to this record again. It's a neutral. I'm sorry, Ben. I wanted to like this way more than I like it. I can't do it.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page. I think I really wanted to like it a lot more than it ended up coming to me. It's cool. I have the same feelings though. It's a bit hit and miss.
I bet it would have felt real fucking fresh to my 1976 ears. But
Yeah.
my 2020 years, it doesn't feel that fresh.
Yeah,
Imagine
1972. I mean, this is this is amazing. And don't get me wrong, like this is absolutely an innovator. It's one of the things that you can point to and say this changed, music in a big way. However, maybe I just prefer a lot of what has spawned from this sort of initial inspiration more than the inspiration itself. It's cool. I do like a couple of the songs, but yeah, things like Hospital, and there are a couple that even Pablo Picasso at times I'm kind of like, it grinds on me from the sort of like, what would you say? I'm not a Weird Al fan, so I'm not comical and whimsical. Don't always move me in the way that I find that I can repeatedly listen to something. But I do like it. It's cool. So neutral.
I'm gonna go 100% positive. I'll let this cap off with Ben, but like, I am a guy who likes Weird Al. I am a guy who likes Dr. Demento. I am a guy who likes Love and Rockets. Like, give me They Might Be Giants. Like, give me dumb music. Like,
They Might Be Giants is not dumb music.
No.
Take it
well, I'm just
Take
saying,
it
like,
back.
interesting usages of wordplay and feelings, and I'm just trying to span it out because it does connect, although it is not in the same fashion. So, but no, I'm going to give it 100% positive. It's not necessarily the most like intricate shit, and that's what makes it great. like I said, it's beautiful in its banality, talking about dumb shit we all do, and feelings that many of us have had and probably, occasionally still have, depending on your age group or what you're feeling. Like it's
40.
Yeah, well, but you could be 40 and you could be driving by the Stop and Shop with your radio on and the window down. Like that's not dependent upon age.
That feels good no matter what age.
Right? Feels good.
I wish the one thing that I wrote down next to Roadrunner was I wish this was a shorter song.
10 times longer.
If you're wanting Jonathan Richman to do a thing that makes sense, he won't do it. So just like write it out. Like Pablo Picasso can be super grating if you're not ready to let it just be. If you let it just be, shit's great. I'm into it. Done.
I can't speak highly enough about this album from my personal perspective. Like if like my musical taste was a combination lock, this album just drops all the tumblers for me. I think what carries it is what really carries it is just the sincerity and the earnestness of Jonathan Richman. I think that he's just such a unique character with a unique perspective, and he's not posturing. He's just put it all out there, and I would like that regardless, because I like other Jonathan Richman albums but where I don't like the music as much, but like having that same just like original pure like earnest dude talking, But then put that with this original lineup of the Modern Lovers. You've got Jerry Harrison from the Talking Heads. You've got David Robinson from the Cars, just doing kind of like a post Velvet Underground, pre-punk, just straightforward driving, simple garage rock. That's what's not to like. That's everything that I like. And I would recommend this album to absolutely any person, especially under the age of 25.
Fair. Awesome.
Next time we'll be talking about David Bowie, Station to Station.
Ooh, cool.
Right, thanks, y'all.
Well, she was sensitive. She understood me. She understood the European thing.